Slowing down in today's world that is only getting faster is a superpower.
Simon Alexander is a life coach, keynote speaker.
His only mission
to help change people's lives.
Sky News, BBC, Forbes, and the best-selling author of Energize.
In the next 90 days, I'm going to go out into the world and get 50 rejections.
People think rejection's a bad thing. Rejections
are great.
It's a good thing.
Without the challenges, you don't get to see how strong you are.
What point are you going to take that step? We have one life.
You feel like you're a victim in the world, and so you're constantly paranoid. But pronoia is this belief that life is working for you and not against you.
How do we do this?
Change the negative into a positive. If you act like you are today based on past decisions, nothing's going to change. But if you act, then things become inevitable.
Were you drinking because you weren't happy?
What has worked for me, which I help other people to do, is to
everything's possible if you put your brain to it.
Why energy? Where did you find this is the key substance to life? That's perfect. Actually, you know what? One of the best things that I've heard from you is, I've got to say this correctly now, is emotion is energy. Oh, I've said it wrong now.
You said it wrong. I've said it so many times.
No, that should be outtake.
I've said it so many times.
Don't worry, that's definitely staying in. So, Kurz,
Yeah.
come on. It's season 2 now, so let's kick it off.
Emotion, energy in action.
In motion.
Yes. And energy in motion.
There we go. Yeah.
One of the best things.
He's only said it like 20 times before you arrived. And that's the funniest thing as well.
I know, I got panicked and I got it wrong then, but it stuck with me so much because it's so true.
It's so true. I mean, if you think back to one of Maya Angelou's most popular quotes, it goes, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but they will never forget the way you made them feel.
Yeah.
And that's all emotion.
Yeah.
It's energy in motion. It's the way we feel. We can't explain it, but we can feel it inside of ourselves.
This is why I'm so excited for this record today, because we usually go into a podcast and it's usually sometimes for me, quite statistical of like, okay, we bought a mountain of cars or we sell something or like in my head, that's how my brain focuses. I'm very, very orderly and very OCD in that aspect. But with this podcast, Kurz, I know you want to do introductions, wrote down here, so I'll let you do the introduction. But for me, this is more so about each thing that you say or that somebody can take their own opinion, their own approach from it. It's everything so personable, even though the sentence is the same. It means something to so many different people. And even the same person, if it's said today or next year, because your life changes. Yeah. And the same book, Energize, can be so important to you at so many different stages of life.
It's a book
and that's something that I find really fascinating, because I'm somebody that's like, okay, 1 + 1 is 2. But in this aspect, it's not. It can be 3, 4, 5, and that can change from morning to afternoon. And that's what I'm excited about.
Well, the guest
I've got lots of questions.
So I'm going to jump straight into it. The guest that we have got on today is Simon Alexander. He's a life coach, keynote speaker from Sky News, BBC, Forbes, and the best-selling author of Energize. And Energize, actually, Alex, explain Energize for us. No, Simon. Why did I say Alex then? I'll tell you what, today is not a good day for me.
Kurt's so excited, he can't remember anything.
Simon, explain Energize.
Yes, Energize, distilled into one sentence, talks about how energy management, not time management, is the key to productivity.
Yes, and I love it, and I couldn't say that anymore. I was actually doing some research, and I found one thing which I didn't realize, but a heart is so important because it creates such a big electromagnetic field that actually jumps out of our body 4 to 5 feet. So if you're sat next to somebody and you're like, oh, I've got this good feeling about them, or a positive feeling, or some good energy, it genuinely is because you've lined up your heart, you've lined up your mind, your soul, and your body all together. And this is what Energize is all about.
And people can feel it. You know, if you look at popular culture, we talk about it so often. It's the Star Wars film franchise, they call it the Force. In yoga, if you practice yoga a lot, you might refer to it as prana. In my Chinese culture, we call it chi. Maori culture, they call it mana. In the streets, they call it vibes. You know, I like his vibes, right? You know, it's referring to energy. But yet we don't address it in ourselves. You know, we talk about it a lot, but we don't actually put things into practice to address our own energy. But when we do, it becomes infectious. We start to attract things into our life effortlessly.
I absolutely agree
People
with that.
forget that like our body fires, and it is actually like electric signals that's telling my arm to move and my thought process. And I think we kind of sometimes think our organs and our body is kind of like, okay, we use it, but we forget how amazing our bodies are, the way they heal. But also, like for me, mind over matter. The brain is so interesting, so untapped in the aspect of what you can do. And I think the quotes that you say, it kind of really allows you to kind of open your brain and be like, okay, how can I take that information in and really use it to better yourself? And that's one thing that each quote, like, people take it in so many different ways. How's that for you as somebody who's written, say, a sentence, and you know that it means so many different things for so many people? Is that a thought process when you're actually putting pen to paper or typing it out?
It may play into it, but a lot of what I share is from personal experience. And they just say people can interpret in different ways, but that's also the beauty of the messages I share. The reason it's interpreted in different ways is because we're going through different challenges. We may have different constraints, different lifestyles, obligations. And so what we take from it might be very different at that moment. But as you said earlier, when you come back to in the future, you might take a different meaning again. And this is why I love rereading classics and rereading books again and again and again that have had an impact on me. Because when I read it the first time, certain pages or chapters will speak to me. I'll read it again, maybe a different chapter speaks to me at this time. Because we're constantly evolving as humans. If you're focused on being better than who you were yesterday, of course you're going to evolve. And your life will change. And of course, different priorities come into your life. You start to eliminate things, let go of some other stuff. And for me, it's beautiful to see what sort of impact these things have. There was a great study done in the US about the factors that contributed to certain sports teams outperforming others.
Oh, I love this.
So I don't know if you've come across this study. So they looked
I haven't. Go into this. I like this. It sounds good.
So they looked at the NBA league.
Yeah.
And they wanted to see were there certain traits of the best performing teams that made them consistently outperform the rest. So they looked at a lot of factors. They watched video replays of matches. They looked at how team members interact with each other. And what they discovered was that the teams that had the greatest number of physical contact with each other, so fist bumps, high fives, hugs. Exactly. What happened is they outperformed the average team. And it wasn't because they were hard work. I mean, you have to be hard working to make the team in the NBA. You have to have a height advantage to play well in basketball. But it came down to physical touches between them. And so what they then found
is that just connect them to each other better.
It's the connection, but it's also the fact that each recipient of a physical touch interprets it differently. So let's say you've been substituted and I come on and we high five each other. Even though no words are exchanged, that high five to you might say, great job, Curtis. I'm going to come on and take over from you. I might high five someone else. To them, it might mean something different. It's like, don't worry, chin up, we've got this. So the way we interpret that action is different. But just that physical touch has a positive effect.
But do you know the different ways that we...
It's so important because it makes sense.
It does, but the different ways that we interpret these actions, it all comes down to actually how we feel in ourselves, doesn't it? It all comes back to this, because if we're not feeling good in ourselves and we're not fully secure in ourselves and we're doing the techniques and the things that we love to do, that high five doesn't become a positive high five, does it? So you really have to align yourself in all of these positions.
Absolutely.
When was the changing factor for you? What made you go into this? Like, why energy? Where did you find this is the key substance to life? And
Absolutely.
it is the key substance to life.
Yeah. So first of all, and I'll come to that, the fact is you cannot have self-development without self-awareness.
Yes.
You have to have a level of awareness about yourself, where you are and what must change. And this is why, we talk about the head and the heart. The longest journey we make are the inches from our heads to our heart. As I say to the people I work with, never an easy journey, but the most important and fulfilling that you will ever embark on. And so for me, the moment my journey started changing was as a result of the financial crisis. So I graduated from the London School of Economics. I started my career in banking at the worst possible time, the middle of 2007, a year before the financial crisis. And just to make things a little interesting, it was with a company called Lehman Brothers, which collapsed into administration.
I do have this personal. Did you take anything? Did you take any memorabilia? It's probably worth something.
I know. I think I've got a green baseball cap and a mug. Nothing too fancy, but the cheap memorabilia. And I was in and out of jobs for nearly 10 years in the financial industry, and I couldn't keep a job down for longer than a couple of years. Not very nice at the time, very challenging to go through redundancy and massive change in your industry. But in hindsight, I jokingly tell myself that it was probably the universe telling me, Simon, you're not meant to be employed. You got to look outside of this industry.
Yeah.
But it was the crisis that got me asking myself deeper questions.
That was your catalyst. It was like, well,
it was one of the first catalysts.
Yeah.
So one of the questions I asked myself was, what did success mean to me? Because for so long, I had this narrow definition that I had to do certain jobs in order to make my family proud and my parents happy.
And that's just because of the stigma of
exactly. That's all that conditioning that we've had growing up in society. So I asked myself, what did success mean to me, and what sort of impact did I want to have in the world? And going back to what we were saying just now about everyone interpreting it differently, I had to understand, for me personally, what did success mean to me? And I think it's a question not many of us have really answered. We know what society expects success to look like, but what is success for us? So that could be just being a good parent. It could be running a successful business. It could be being in charge of a team, whatever it is. But until we have clarity on what that is, we have no direction.
Do you have any actual tips for people on how to find what that clarity is? How to find because I think that's the hardest thing. Like people, they don't know. They don't actually know what their morals are. They don't know what they love.
The hardest thing, or even sometimes you could say is quite a sad thing. I find that the more and more I love doing these podcasts for multiple reasons. We get to talk to people and explore things. But I find that we talk to people that understand who they are and what they like and what they enjoy. Whereas we talk to a lot of people sometimes, and the really hard thing is I feel like they don't know who they are.
Yeah.
I'm not on about young, or they may be young, they may be old, but usually older people, that they've never found who they are and on what makes them tick.
Morals have been conflicted.
And I find like people always have multiple reasons for that. Or excuses that they've made up themselves. Like sometimes life, it takes over. But I find it quite sad. I'm like, well, at what point are you going to take that step? We have one life. Like we need to make the most of it. Do you find that people ask you these sorts of questions? You have the book, you have your personal experiences, like you spoke about kind of sudden loss, which was kind of something that I found quite interesting, that these things that are unexpected, they hit you sideswipe. You can't prepare for it. But when it's like a lifetime of being like 20, 30 years, and you still feel like you haven't found yourself, like how do you deal with people asking these sorts of questions?
Well, the first place I start is I share that I can relate to that. When I was in finance, that is all I knew. I spent most of my days working in a corporate office. After work, I would go drinking with people in finance. On the weekends, I would be socializing with people in finance. So that was the world I knew.
Were you drinking because you weren't happy?
There was an element of that. So I was drinking because I was a bit directionless, but also that was the thing to do. People would go after work to the pub or to a bar. You see it, and you want to be part of the crowd, right?
You want to do the high fives.
Yeah, exactly.
Be part of the team spirit.
Be part of the team there.
Play that pool game at the
top. So I did it for that, but I knew it was only at the surface. As in deep down, this was not fulfilling. And the thing is, like many people, I didn't know what it is I wanted to do because I had no knowledge of a world outside of finance. And so when I share...
finance has always been your life from
graduation, And I think it's more because when I grew up as a teenager and I was starting to think about career choices, whether it was my careers advisor, my parents, or my peer group, they were all saying, "Oh, you'll be successful when you become a banker, a doctor, a lawyer, or an accountant." These very traditional roles that had a good reputation, paid decent, and were respected by your peers in society.
And so in a box, that does.
It puts you in a box, and I fell into banking because I watched films like Boiler Room and Wall Street, and that kind of seduced me to going that direction. And so for me, I didn't know anything outside of that industry. So when people ask me, I'm a bit lost, I don't really know what I want to do. What I say to them is nobody does. You don't wake up one morning and go, Eureka, I know exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. If you're in a Hollywood film,
there's multiple crossroads that get you to that point, aren't there? And I think it's identifying, for me, it's always like, there's always a crossroad. It's identifying which route and for what reason you take. Because within our careers, it's up, down, it's left, right. You never know what's happening. But I think it's important to always be true to yourself and who you are and what you stand for. Even when people think you're a bit crazy, you're like, no, there's a reason behind it. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to stick to one thing because I've been told, or I have to, or that's the thing that should be. Well, why is it? Why can't it? Like everything's possible if you put your brain to it. You can do it.
Absolutely. And I think that's why certain things have to change first before people can transform their lives.
Yeah.
So for me, the very first step I tell someone is look at your environment. Look at your environment. It's the very first step.
Yeah. So by that, you mean the people around you, the job
yeah,
you do, where you're living.
So everything. So it could be the books you read, the people you spend time with, the podcasts you listen to, what you watch, who you follow on social media, your physical spaces and your digital spaces. These all influence your thinking. And so to sum it up, I often tell people that the fastest way to make progress in your life is to design an environment around you that makes it impossible not to succeed.
Yeah.
So how does one go about that? One of the first questions people ask me is like, Simon, you get to hang around with these people and you get to hang around with these mentors. Yeah. Of course, you're going to have a great environment. And I say to them, well, you can do so as well. Maybe your mentors start off being books.
You didn't always hang around with them people.
When I first started, my mentors were books.
Because we spoke at CarFest. I liked, ironically, I liked your energy. You came to us, we spoke.
Got a good heart.
But the conversation was open.
Yeah.
And it was, you didn't have a direction, I didn't have a direction, but there was an open conversation.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, okay, we're going to do a podcast straight away afterwards.
Yeah.
So this was ages ago. And it's like, oh, do you have the opportunity? Are you here?
Yeah.
What, are you traveling? Continue to follow and read more into you. But these things don't happen if you don't put yourselves in them situations in the first time.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's hard.
Yeah.
But taking the first step means that you can take the second and the third. You don't get to fifth, sixth until you take first.
And this is the fact of life, is none of us are given a map up front. And okay, here's where you are now, here's where you want to get to, here's the path you have to take. We're not shown it. What we have to do is take action. And the more action we take, the more the map that starts to unravel. And then we get to see what the next step is, the next step is, and the next step is. And the environment helps with that, because when you start to build an environment around you that is immersing you in inspiration, what happens is taking action becomes easier, because the books you read, the podcasts you watch or listen to, that is showing you what is possible. It's breaking your ceiling of possibility and saying, actually, you can do so much more. The habits you desire to embrace, it is the people you are spending time with. It is their minimum. It is what they do at a minimum. And so for me, one of the first experiences of witnessing how powerful an environment can be was when I went to a friend's party. So it was a friend's birthday party in West London. And I met this mutual friend of ours. And he said to me, Simon, do you want to come along to a mastermind group? It'll be with fellow entrepreneurs who are looking to build and scale their business. And I'd only ever come across the idea of a mastermind group in Napoleon Hill's classic book, Think and Grow Rich. And so I said, yeah, I'm in, without realizing what I was signing myself up for. Yeah. Because at this point, I was still in a full-time job and I was just getting my ideas off the ground through a side hustle. So I came along to this meeting. It wasn't held in, I thought it was going to be held in a place like Costa Coffee or Starbucks, but it was held at the Ritz. It's a very sort of fancy place for a mastermind group.
Very fancy place, I will tell you that right now. Yeah,
so I go along to this to this mastermind group. Definitely not a Costa. And there's 10 of us in a circle. And so the facilitator goes, we're going to go around, each of you introduce yourself, and then we're going to kick off today's session. Yeah. And the first person introduces himself by going, I'm Patrick. I co-founded the company called HelloFresh. I quit my job as a lawyer.
How did you get into this? I want this circle. Wow.
And I'm thinking, they're like, how am I going to introduce myself? You know, my hands start to feel sweaty. I'm like, my head's whirring, like, I'm still in the job. You know, I haven't started the business yet. And then the next person introduces himself, says, hey, I'm Dominic. I just got back from Los Angeles, picking up an award for a book I released last year. And I'm now really starting to think, why was I invited? I'm getting full-on imposter syndrome. And fortunately, in that session, I didn't have to introduce myself because it stopped 3 people before me. But I got the chance to think about it more, and the next week I had to introduce myself. But what it showed me in that very first session was that very often we have to put ourselves into situations where we feel like the dumbest person in the room, because that's where growth happens. Yeah. Because I felt like I was the dumbest person in that room, I became a sponge. I was absorbing the energy, I was absorbing the insights, I was absorbing the wisdom. And I came out of that with so many ideas, I couldn't sleep until 2 or 3 in the morning that night.
I have a question. When the people introduce themselves, and maybe obviously you say like HelloFresh, or he's picked an award up in LA, did they, because I've been in some of these things and I always find it more intriguing. Yes, if they've launched a business or they're founder. On one side, I respect that and I want to understand how they've scaled and grown and marketed and all of that side. But on the other side, I want to know what makes them tick. Like, are they like hi, I love going out, I'm a social person, or I'm someone who stays home, or like, I always find that side more intriguing. And sometimes I feel like we're so quick to saying, hi, I'm a dancer and I do a podcast and I'm launching a financial investment app. Well, you don't actually say anything about you as a person.
Yeah, I totally agree.
A sad thing,
because you know, one of the things I talk a lot about when I work with leaders and entrepreneurs is communication. Communication is one of the most important business skills that we can develop. And one of the first questions you will get asked when you meet someone for the first time or you go to a networking event is, what do you do? And as you said, we jump into using titles. You know, I'm a dancer, I'm a chef, I'm an entrepreneur, which doesn't really tell you much.
Doesn't tell you actually about that person.
Yeah, it doesn't tell you anything about that person.
Because if I'm going to go into business with somebody like our friend Wes, like,
you want to know the morals.
I want to know what they stand for. Are they a family person? What drives them? What are their friendship groups around them? Like, do they want everybody to succeed at the same time, or are they somebody who's going to just take? Whereas that's so much more important, because that's the decision for me saying, yes, I go into business, or no, I don't. And it's literally as easy as that.
Yeah, and this is why my challenge to people when they do get asked that question is to respond with a trailer. So this is what I mean. So when you go to the cinema, before the feature film comes on, you have about 5 or 6 trailers, maybe a minute or minute and a half long. Now, if the trailer has done its job, you're going to say to your friend or your partner, let's watch that film when it comes out. Oh, yeah. I want to come back and watch it when it's out. Now, in the business world, in the real world, that full film is your product or your service or your idea. Yeah. So when you drop a trailer, you're getting people to respond with words such as, tell me more. How does that work? Yeah. How do I get involved? Yeah. And this is going back to what we said earlier about emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. So when you're starting to talk about your origin story, you're sharing your values, then what happens is they get curious. I'll give an example just to illustrate how this works. So let's take a boring industry like paper. So if you were to say to me, Simon, what is your business? What do you do? In the normal way, I might say, well, guys, I produce nice paper, handcrafted by a team up north in England. 7 of us are contributing to this project, cheaper than our competitors. You interested in buying some or looking at it? Not very compelling. Again, it's a very superficial title.
Slightly plain.
It's a very descriptive, but not emotion involved in that presentation. Yeah. But imagine now I emotionally charge it. I tell a bit of a story, and now I communicate it differently. So I might say something like this: hey guys, one of the things I believe in is the spreading of great ideas. And the more we can spread great ideas in the world, the faster it becomes to change our world for the better. One of the mediums for doing so is through the written word. And this is where we come in. We design beautiful handcrafted paper for big ideas. Are you interested in learning how we do it?
You gave them a reason, you gave them a solution.
There you go. But also it creates a visual. It creates emotion, it creates connection. And this is why stories are so powerful.
Like, to think the one thing that survived over time, endless stories are always from before there was pen and paper. Stories are the one thing that
it's the only way of communication in reality.
It works.
Words are stories.
We know it because, like, as we have evolved, stories have always continued to grow with us.
Yeah.
Well, it literally is. All our words are stories.
I mean, stories are so powerful because stories are packed with emotion. When I educate people on how to communicate better, whether it's through their public speaking, whether it's through social media, whether it's through marketing, what we want to do is think of the story and the message. Because if you only focus on the message without the story, there's no connection. There's no engagement with an audience. Yeah. But with a story and a message, the story connects emotionally. The message gives them a call to action. Yes. So once they're emotionally charged, you've shown them the next step. And this is why some of my favorite ads are the ones put out by GoPro. Because if you ever look at a GoPro ad, first of all, super smart. Yeah. The budget they have for it is minimal because it's all user-generated content. Yeah. So they take all of the user-generated content, they kind of mash it up into an ad. You don't see the product anyway. You just see the result of using the product. And by the end of it, you feel like you want to go on an adventure. You feel like, I need to get a GoPro and
very similar to
go
Red
on an
Bull
adventure.
As well. They never actually promote the drink. It's the action sports behind it all. It's the racing. It's the extreme sports. It's the
story.
Yeah.
They're clear on the story they want to share. And this is where it comes back to us. What is your origin story? And what is the story you are writing now? Because when you're clear on the story you're writing now and you express it with passion and energy, people want to be part of it. People want to join you on that journey.
Well, I think that all starts from a day-to-day basis, doesn't it? What things then can you tell people or give people that can help on a day-to-day basis? Just they can start now, some small tips and tricks so they can start every day trying these things
help
and
them
hopefully
find their journey.
Help them find themselves, their journey, and ground themselves.
So I would say the first thing, and this comes back to how I see energy. So energy is in 4 dimensions. You have physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. But the first place it starts is physical energy. You know, if there's anything COVID taught us, was that without your health, you can't do much. Or as I say in my book, to the healthy, they have lots of hopes, dreams, and goals, but to the sick, they have only one. So you can't do much else unless you have a good baseline of physical energy. So I would say for anybody, look at your physical energy now. And what I mean by this is, are you getting sufficient sleep? Are you moving your body every day on a regular basis? It doesn't have to be an hour in the gym. It can just be walking outside, go for a swim, go for a cycle, but just something that gets your body moving. Now, you may not always be motivated to do so, but I guarantee you, you will never regret it after. And then the third thing is nutrition. What are you feeding your body? Now, if you're feeding your body junk, you're not moving your body, and you're not getting sufficient rest, whatever I share, you're never going to put into action. Or if you do, it's not going to be effective. Because you're not going to put it in with any gusto. So that would be where I would start.
Sleep, a little bit of exercise,
movement, and nutrition.
Food.
Once you've got that, you have a baseline of energy. And then for me, one of the greatest habits, it's a simple one, but one we talk about a lot, but few of us do, which is plan your day the night before. Now, when you plan your day the night before,
I wrote down here, plan your day the night before.
I love it. So when you plan your day the night before, what happens is you wake up. The morning hours is when we have our highest level of energy. You know exactly what to focus on. Whereas most of us, because we don't plan our day the night before, we wake up and we're wasting our first couple of hours thinking, what do I do today? What's my priorities? And we're sort of just putting out fires. We're just putting out fires the whole morning. And then by the time it gets to lunchtime or after, we're like, man, it's been a long day already. You know? So that is the unfortunate reality.
That is most of reality right now, actually. That is a lot of the generation that is happening.
It's the unfortunate reality. You know, we know that in order to do
it, even like sometimes I usually work from home, or we go somewhere, or our hours are not regular hours. But sometimes the other day I had to go to the Excel. I had to do normal hours. I got up, we got on the Elizabeth line to go. I was watching people. They were like zombies. You could it was just lost. So just literally headphones in, looking at the phone, quite clearly tired, just whatever it may be. And you kind of want to knock on some people. Like, are you
just shaking?
Are you okay? Are you like?
Well, personally,
are you switched on?
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsors.
Yes, FINT. You can launch your brighter future today, so head over to their website and register your interest.
I understand exactly what you're saying, because I have gone through times where I haven't planned my day out. And you're right, it gets to 11 o'clock. I woke up at 8 a.m, it gets to 11 o'clock. I feel like I've done loads, but in reality, I've only done one thing. And I've not even done it properly.
And this is exactly the feeling of most of society. They're busy, but not going anywhere.
They're busy, but not actually productive.
This is, even for us, like, kind of listen to yourself. And myself and Kurt, we're brothers. We've been brought up exactly the same, but we are polar opposite. So for me, when I hear people don't plan their day before, or don't write a list the night before, and don't do it, to me it's so alien, because it's just, that's the way I'm wired and always have been. So on one side, great for me. On the other side, I find it hard to sometimes be with you, Curtis, and be like, okay, what do you mean you haven't wrote a list? Or what do you mean you haven't done it? Like, it's my brain, I couldn't function. If I woke up this morning and didn't have a list of things to do, or if I haven't, like, my diary is like I kind of time box everything the whole day.
I tend to,
and if it's not, I'm like, I start twitching.
I have a mental list. But the problem is with the mental list is sometimes if you wake up a little bit more tired, a little bit fog in your brain, like for example me this morning, things don't go to plan straight away. I called you the wrong name.
And this is why there's a great question asked to Richard Branson. So I was on this event where Branson was doing a Q&A. And this young guy asked Branson, what's the one advice you would give to entrepreneurs just starting out based on your experience? And it was an interesting answer. He said, make sure you carry a notepad and pen wherever you go. Because he said, you'd have no idea ahead of time which conversation, which chance meeting, which person you listen to, or which magazine you read if you're waiting for a train or your aeroplane, that would suddenly give you an insight. And if you have nowhere to capture it, it'll be very quickly lost. And he even picked out his small black notebook from his jacket pocket. And he said, even I still have one today.
Yeah.
Because he said, if you can capture all of those thoughts and insights and ideas, what happens is you can revisit them.
Yeah.
And that becomes your baseline for your strategy. But if you're relying on your brain, yes, I mean, on a good day it'll function really well. But on most days, you'll just end up forgetting things.
Yeah, like,
and
there's only so much your brain can take in. Like that beautiful, you're pouring that cup of tea into the cup. Like, there's only so much it can take.
And there's something special about what you were saying there with the notepad is writing it down. I always feel if you're doing a muscle memory of something, it sinks into your body. You absorb it. Where if you text it down or something, it's a different story.
It's different because if you're doing it digital, there's chances for distraction.
Yes.
You know, if you're doing it on your laptop, you've got tabs open, or you're doing a phone, then a notification pops up, you get distracted. But if you write pen to paper, it's raw, but also it forces you to slow down.
Yeah.
It forces you to slow down and think about what you're writing. And when you write what's on your mind, your brain is straight away thinking about what you've written down.
Do you think that's a big key thing in this day and age, actually, for people to slow down?
Absolutely. Slowing down.
And I don't mean slow down as in don't be as productive in this and that.
Sure.
I mean more as in we're so over observing. There's so much information coming in on us. Like actually just settle down, have a little bit of meditation or something, or just try and focus on the one thing.
Yeah. Slowing down in today's world that is only getting faster is a superpower.
Yeah.
You have to look back at some great anecdotes. I don't know if these are true, but I think there's a lot of wisdom in them. Isaac Newton, apple fell on his head, gravity. Thomas Edison, fishing with no baits and no one, not even the fish would disturb him.
I love this story that you said. Yeah, can you say this?
Yeah, so Thomas Edison would spend an hour out of each day to disconnect from work, go to the lake and just fish. And he never caught a single fish in the time he did this activity. And the reason is because he never used bait. So no one, not even the fish, would disturb him. And he would credit that hour each day as one of the moments that contributed to all of his ideas when he came back to the office and he had this new invention he wanted to try out. Because it's in those moments where we get our creative breakthroughs. I mean, just think for us going on holiday, when you are up in the air and you're on a long flight somewhere and you have no internet connection, no mobile phone reception, you're in that peace. You're in that stillness. And often that's where we have all these ideas of, when I get back home, I'm going to do this. When I return to work, I'm going to change this about my life. But then we go back into the routine. How much of that do we actually follow through with?
I think all these distractions. Again, the shower is a place for me, to be fair. That's when I sometimes think.
Clarity of that, like it's different for each person. But I feel like somebody within each, say you've got your day today, like at what moment in that day are you going to set aside for that? Like, whether it's like me, I love to, it sounds really sad. I've always had egg on toast for lunch.
Yeah.
And
when I can vouch for this, it's like 1 year old.
Forever. And it makes me so happy to sit down, have my egg on toast, and I usually sit in silence. And it's my thought process.
Yeah.
And I have some of my best thoughts when I'm on my egg on toast.
Yeah.
Because all I'm focused on is just eating, no TV on, sat in here, quiet. It makes me so happy.
It's bringing you into the present moment. And the fact is, too many of us are not living in the present moment.
Oh, yeah.
We're dwelling on the past. We're living in a future that may or may not happen. And we end up falling into this trap of living as if we're never going to die and then dying having never really lived. And there was this...
That's wow. That's powerful.
It's a tragedy many of us
Can you say that one more
through.
time? Sorry.
So many of us live as if we're never going to die
Yeah.
and then die having never really lived.
Yeah.
Because we're not living in this present moment. And I find that when you become mindful, when you ground yourself in the now, what happens is you begin to realize just how many miracles are around us. But because we move so fast and we take things for granted, the extraordinary suddenly seems ordinary.
I've started doing something recently. I've started since the start of February, actually writing down everything I'm spending on my accounts and stuff. And without realizing it, it's actually brought me into the present moment.
Yeah.
Because it's made me realize what I'm actually doing throughout that day, as in what I'm actually spending or what I'm going to do and stuff. And it's really brought me into the now almost, because I'm writing it down and just thinking, but it's here. I've done this today. It's now. And it's changed me. I'm not even going to lie.
It does, because
really has.
A couple of reasons. The first thing is by writing down everything you spend,
you
suddenly got a jolt of awareness.
Yeah.
You now know, because a lot of people, they'll just spend and they'll look at a bank account at the end of the month and they're like, where did all the money go? They don't know where it went. But as soon as you start writing these things down, what am I spending on? You get to see, wow, that is where all the money's going. And then you can evaluate, which is the next step. is this something I still want to continue with?
Yeah.
And then you can start to eliminate, or you can start to maybe adjust it. Maybe you're going for the premium plan, go for the economy plan, whatever that is that you subscribe to. So it's a great way to be aware of accountability of where your money's actually going, and then to make changes. But I think before that, for us to make the change, what has worked for me, which I help other people to do, is to connect your present self to your future self.
Yeah. So how do we do this?
So a lot of us, the reason we don't change is because we are basing our current thinking about who we are, our identity, on our past behaviors.
Yeah.
So I've always done this, so I'm this person, or this is how I grew up. And so we're using our past as an excuse for our present day decisions. But if we can flip it and work backwards from our future self, it changes the game. So let's say you're thinking about changing your life, but you don't know what to do, but you know something has to change.
Yes.
The best way to start is to project yourself, let's say 30 years ahead, and say, if everything was perfect in my life, in my personal, professional life, what would that look like? And then you really visualize it, get as clear as you can. They might not be full yet, but you have some idea. We all have some idea.
Yeah.
And then you want to ask yourself questions such as, where am I? Who am I spending time with? What am I known for? What have I accomplished? And see it as if you have already done those things that you want to do. And then from there, you want to project back that future self to the present person and ask yourself, how can I act like that person today? Because the being of that person has to happen first before the other stuff starts to come into your life. So, for example, if you act like you are today based on past decisions, nothing's going to change. But if you act as your future self, then things become inevitable. So if your future self is somebody who is living with intention, who hangs around people that gives him or her energy, and all of this stuff is what this future self is doing. You can do it today. There's nothing stopping you doing it now. And so you're living off from that future self. So what happens is that gap starts to narrow once you have an idea of what that future self looks like.
I think for me anyway, or maybe sports people, like it's kind of, there's a clear goal always. Like we're running a half marathon like in April, like that the goal that I visualize is I'm going to get this time, I'm going to be running at this pace. I know the kind of course it's roughly going to be, but I work back from being like, every time I run, I visualize that. I work process. I know that if I'm not going for the run clubs on Tuesday and Thursday, I'm not getting the miles in, I'm not going to be able to achieve that goal. And it's kind of that with sports people, there's always a clear goal. And I think when people kind of look at life, they don't put a clear goal. So therefore, what are you shooting for? And I think what's really nice about what you said there is you've got a clarity or a rough idea of where you want to be and shooting for that goal. And I think that's so important because people, maybe it's in the UK more so than some other countries. It's like everybody wins or everybody's happy. Or everybody's like, but no, you're competing against yourself or you're competing against I look at it as a big game. I want to win my game in the way that I'm doing.
That's actually a great point in what you were saying. Like competitors or sports, they want to be the best in the world. So therefore they know exactly what they're training for. So they are looking in the future.
But the interesting thing is goals isn't the most important. Goals is important to an extent. But what's more important than the goal is a vision. I'll give an example. Let's say you're in sports and your goal is to win X number of gold medals. If you're an Olympian or to be known for a certain sport. What happens when you are? You've got the gold medals. You've completed the race. What happens next? So if you look at some of the interviews Michael Phelps has done, when he retired from being an Olympian, one of the first thoughts that came into his head was the fact he wanted to kill himself because he lost his identity. He's not an Olympian anymore. He's a former Olympian. What is his purpose? He doesn't have to train anymore. He used to have to wake up every morning early, have a certain diet, go swimming, spend lots of time in the pool. Now he's retired. What is he going to do with his life?
That daily schedule.
It's every minute. It's gone.
They've lost that.
And so goals is important, but to an extent. What's more important is a vision. What is the vision you have for your life? What is the impact you want to have in the world? And this is why, if I had to distill it into a process of thinking, it would be visualize in years, plan in months, execute daily. So the vision helps to inform the plan, and the plan is where the goals come in. So this is where you can measure your progress. So if you plan in months, it might be by the end of next month, I want to have done ABC. And then you look at the present moment and what am I going to execute now that will make the plan happen? And when the plan happens, it contributes to the vision. But if you're only focused on the goal, and this is why I hear lots of friends saying, I'm going to run the marathon, and they train hard and they change their diet for the marathon.
But then what do they do after?
And then after the marathon, they're back to what they did before they did all training. And so what I say to them is, don't focus on the goal of running the marathon. Focus on the person you must become so that running marathons becomes easy.
Yeah.
Now, when you focus on the person you need to become, what happens is your attention goes more to systems and habits. Now, if you have the right systems and habits in place, you don't just run one marathon, but you're setting your mind and your body to win again and again and again, multiple times. And that's why in sport, it's so easy to win that first title.
A powerful hack,
that first championship. But how hard is it to retain that title year after year after year after year consistently?
When we were kind of dancing, it was always...
That's a hack to life.
Don't ever get complacent. Number 2, number 3 behind you. They're always there, and it's that process for us. Healthy processes, putting it into place. Like people see it as a bit of a chore, but when you do it all the time, like it's part of your life. It becomes that
and it doesn't have to be a chore. I mean, you mentioned the word earlier about seeing things as a game. For me, if you approach something with a gamification mindset, the game is the reward. Being in the game, playing the game is the reward. And so if you see something as a chore, the power of a good question can transform that relationship. So for me, one of my chores when I started my business was having to go to networking events, building my relationships, putting myself out there.
Listen to you go about your book was, I found very good. Putting yourself in the experiences of going to these talks and obviously sending emails to all the companies and letters and putting yourself in the position, putting yourself out there to allow it to come back. And more and more we do these podcasts and talk to people, like business ventures pop up, things that would have never happened if we were never in these rooms.
Have you ever been afraid of people saying no to you and things like this?
At the beginning, honestly, yes. As time went on, no, because I started to realize how powerful the gamification mindset is. So, one part of the gamification mindset is asking yourself, what would this look like if it was more fun and enjoyable? Because there's always a different way to do something. If something is a chore, ask yourself, what would make this more fun and enjoyable? And then you can change the process. And the second is I changed the negative into a positive. So let's say rejection.
Yeah,
in this
elaborate
case.
on this.
So what I would so instead of dwelling on a no, which is what tends to happen when you kind of reach out to people, you send a cold email, you're going to get a lot of rejections, even if you're looking for a new job and you're filling in the CV and you're going through interviews. But if you flip it on its head and say to yourself, let's make this into a bit of a challenge. The brain loves challenges. So you might say to yourself, okay, in the next 90 days, I'm going to go out into the world and get 50 rejections.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
So what happens is when you get your first rejection, you're not dwelling on it because you go, oh, I've only got these number of days. So I've got to get my second one, my third one, my fourth one. And then you're targeting lots of rejections.
People need to hear more of this. People think rejection's a bad thing. Rejections are great. It's a good thing. Like turn it into a positive.
Us doing street filming for the stuff that we do for our socials for FINT.
Brilliant.
First time I ever did it, I was so scared. Because I thought they're going to say no or they're going to be awkward about it. I just felt awkward. I didn't know what to ask. And then as
people
we
only see the nice parts of us on the street.
As the 100 rejections.
I've got an outtakes of edits of people being like, no. It's like, it depends where we are, but
builds up resilience.
That's an idea for a good video, by the way. You should no.
Literally.
Yeah, I'll talk to you. No, I'll talk to you. Because they only see the yeses. Yeah.
It's brilliant. And the people that sometimes say no, you can see in their head, like they're saying no because they're sometimes afraid. I'm like, well, just sometimes put yourself out there. Just say yes.
Yeah.
I'm now when I see somebody filming on the street, I'm like, yeah, go on. What are we talking about now?
Bad for them.
And I think, Kurt, you hit it on the nail just now when you're saying with rejection, you learn from each rejection.
Yeah.
So if you're just focused on, okay, I'm going to go from my next one, subconsciously the brain is learning from the previous rejection. What went well, what could be better? And then you are refining all the time. But for most of us, because we're dwelling on that last rejection, we're not actually making progress. We're seeing that one rejection as the defining moment in our journey. Yet it shouldn't be.
And it's the past. Forget about it.
Exactly.
Well, what's been your biggest rejection then that's hit you, but actually giving you the, I'm going to do this now?
Giving you the energy.
We have big things in our life, like maybe it's the book or something. But what was that one thing? Because we all have it in our head, like they've said no. Well, let's see. Let's work. We're going to work on this one.
Yeah, it's funny because I think when I was a student, I really wanted to work for Goldman Sachs as a company. I mean, again, this was me wanting to go into banking. And I got rejected. I tried my best to get that job. I got rejected. Obviously, Lehman Brothers came along. Financial crisis happened. But in hindsight, those things were a blessing in disguise. And they led me to want to pursue a career outside of the industry. So even though I didn't get that, it put me on a completely different path. And I find that, and I've gone through lots of setbacks, challenges, and I guess moments of darkness, whether it was losing my mum at 17, to failing a year at university, to being in a financial crisis, to the first year of business not really going the way I expected it to be. All of those things taught me that it is in those moments that equip us with the wisdom and the insights to come back stronger. And this is why challenges are so important. Without the challenges, you don't get to see how strong you are.
Yeah.
You end up coasting. You never really see your true potential. And so when I was going through that journey and I knew that there was more to be had in the world, the question I kept asking myself, and one I now ask of others, is how much longer, Simon, will you avoid what you are capable of to continue with what you are comfortable doing? And I kept saying to myself, I've got to make a decision. I've got to make a decision. And I realized the moment we make a decision is when the path unravels. Because once you've made a decision, you've gone from interest to commitment. Most of us are only interested.
Yeah.
You know, New Year's resolutions, when people share what they're up to. I'm interested in getting fitter this year. I'm interested in starting the business this year.
The only way to know if you like it is
to
make
commit.
a decision and do it.
What do you find the common, maybe underlying, we could say, problem or challenge for people is? Is it to make that first step, or to step outside their comfort zone, or to kind of remove the peer pressure? Like we always say to kids, like, dance as though nobody's watching.
Yeah.
You'll be freer, you'll be easy, you'll be able to do what you know you can do. But that fear of judgment, like, you're going to get judged whether you do it or don't do it. And the people that are judging you because you're doing it are not the right people anyway. Like, just, that's what I find. Fear of judgment is such a big topic.
Massive.
Like, it's because
not really touched upon. We want to be validated.
Yes.
So when you're a child,
especially in social media now, there's literally how many likes.
You can't help but compare. And so when you're a young child, you want to feel validated by your parents. When you grow up, you want to feel validated by your peer group at school. When you go into the world of work, you want to be validated by your colleagues, your boss. And so we grow up in a society where we're always seeking validation. And so when we break out of that to do something completely against the norm, we question ourselves because we fear how we're going to be seen by the people closest to us. But this is where courage is the most important. Courage has to come first. A lot of people will say, I don't feel confident enough to do something.
Yes.
No one is. No one is going to feel confident before they take that first step. Confidence is a byproduct of courage. You have to have a little courage to take that first step. Once you take it and it wasn't as bad as you thought, then your confidence starts to increase. Do you
find that quite a lot of the time people will overcomplicate it in their head and they'll think this is going to be way worse than it is, way worse, way worse, and then they do it.
Or there's always that one person that you see calling like, oh, this can't be good. We all know, we all don't want to do it, and then suddenly you pick the phone up, oh hey, I've got a great idea in this, or we can reduce your tax bill, or whatever the bad thought process is. But we all have that, and it's like innate in us to be like, oh, it's going to be bad, isn't it? Whereas in reality, it's only that way if that's the way you think. And I think one thing for us, Curtis, is like yourself as well, like the change in lifestyles. I find that because, well, me more so, I'm always feel like I've made my time quite busy, but structured in the right way. That if it is to pick the phone up to sort out a problem, or if I need to go somewhere and do something, because I've put it in such a priority, I don't give myself time to stress about it or think about it. And at the other side of it, I always think to myself, well, people say, oh, it's hard to pass your driving test or something. I think, look how many people are driving. Like, if you break it down to simplicity, we're all humans, we're all people, we all have emotions, we all connect to stories. People have gone through everything that you've been through, maybe at different times in their life. Don't stress about it. Just do it. People understand. Ask the question. When you see people at a restaurant, it's like they're nervous to ask where's the toilet. It's like, what they're going to do.
And here's the interesting thing about stress. Stress actually doesn't really exist, because when an event happens, an event itself is neutral. You know, for example, when a car crashes into a wall, the wall doesn't get sad, the car doesn't get angry. It just is. But
It's
where
a transfer of energy.
Exactly, the transfer of energy. But where stress comes from is our interpretation of the event. So if you interpret an event as threatening to you, then what happens is you start to feel stressed.
Yeah.
And so what we come to realize, especially when it's with our thoughts, is when we change our thoughts, and this is the superpower we don't realize we have, when we change a thought about an event, we change our entire spectrum of behavior. A thought triggers a different interpretation triggers a different feeling, and the feeling triggers a different action. And that triggers a different result. So when you're going through an experience of an event, say to yourself, what else could this mean?
Yeah.
What else could this mean? Because the moment you shift the thought pattern, you completely change your experience of an event.
Actually, I naturally feel like I do this in my life. I always turn a situation into a positive situation. Therefore, then I can enjoy that situation.
Yeah.
Even if I'm in what can be a scary situation, or I'm out of my comfort zone, I'll try and turn it into a positive. And I'll say to myself, Curtis, you're going to do this no matter what. You're going for it. Give it a go. You may not be the best now. You may be absolutely crap. You may not get it. But either way, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
To get better, you've got to do it.
And what we're
Just
talking
go for
about
it.
here is the word pronoia, which I share in my book. You know, paranoia.
Oh, I heard this. I love this. Yeah.
Paranoia is this belief that, you know, the world is out to get me. My colleague is trying to sabotage my chance of promotion. You feel like you're a victim in the world. And so you're constantly paranoid about why people are trying to trip you up. But pronoia is this belief that the universe is conspiring in your favor and that life is working for you and not against you. Now, just imagine for a second.
Pronoia.
Pronoia, yeah.
Word of the day.
So just imagine if you embrace life through the lens of pronoia.
Yeah.
So when something does not happen the way you expected it to happen, if you saw it as life working for you, how different would you interpret it? You would more likely seek the lesson from that experience rather than saying, why me? Why did this happen again? Why is this always happening to me? Because that's not productive thoughts. A more productive thing is to say, well, what did this teach me? How am I going to improve as a result of what happened? And that's progress. And you want to focus on what you can control, not what you can't.
I think that's one of the best and biggest things anyone could take from this, actually, is that. And it sort of is just turn it into that positive situation. What can I learn from this situation? And then if you do learn that, and then you do that, well, there you go.
And this is why humility
Life has taught you a lesson.
Yeah, humility is underrated for me. You have to be humble enough to see the lessons. If you're always operating from ego, you're like, you're not waiting for the lesson.
I feel like if somebody's coming from like an ego point of view, or they feel like there's some sort of hierarchy, they lose out on so many opportunities. Like for me, sending a message to you, being like, can I ask for help? Would you like to do this? Would you like? And I feel like these things get lost because more than not, if you are kind and you ask somebody in a polite way and you make it possible for them to fulfill whatever the requirement is or what you're asking, most people are nice people. They want to help. And you're usually asking that person for that reason.
And this goes back to what we said about rejection earlier. For me, I always encourage people, ask. Because again, you're going to learn how to ask better each time. No. And so I always say, always ask, but never expect the outcome you would like. Because if you attach yourself to an outcome, you're not going to feel happy along the way. You're going to give up very soon and your energy would dip. But just move to the next. I'll just put lots of asks out there. It's like, the analogy I have in my head, it's like planting seeds. You keep planting seeds, and you have no idea which one of those seeds will eventually blossom into an orchard. So you just plant seeds and you just trust the universe. You say one of these asks will land, not all of them will work, but hey, as long as some of them come back to me, it'll be great.
And you keep doing it until
you just keep doing it.
Okay, I've got a question. Seeing like you obviously travel a lot, you meet very cool people that maybe founders of businesses or other thought leaders in their space, their respective space. What's the question that you kind of always want to ask them? Because you're around some very intellectual people, plus like people within your industry. what is the question? Do you ask them, is it like this, what are you feeling this year? Or what do you find in different countries? Because you travel a lot.
Yeah.
Or what's your take for it? Like, because you always want information. Like, I always intrigues me to be people in the same space. Like, what do you talk about?
So for me, it depends on the person because everyone has a different profile. But one of the things I love starting off asking them, because it gives me a powerful insight into their life at the moment, is what are you most excited about this year?
Yes.
Because that gives me a baseline of understanding the projects they're involved in, the
you know
work
where
they're
they
focused
are.
on. You know where they are.
And it's going to start the conversation off with a good energetic way.
It's good energy because they're excited about it.
Talk about it.
So I find questions so powerful. Yeah. It's like if you have a friend that you catch up with on a regular basis, but you know this friend is negative. If you have the right question, you can influence their state. So I'll give an example. If you catch up with them for a drink and you usually say, how's your week gone?
Yeah.
And you know they're going to say, it's been rubbish and this didn't happen.
In the UK, it's definitely
and that
really negative.
It was raining all week.
Yeah, crap.
But imagine if you were to reframe that question and say something like, hey, it's been a while since we last caught up. What has gone well your side?
Yeah.
So subconsciously you redirected them to focus on what has gone well. So that's why I usually like to start. And then I like to kind of play around with questions. Again, I don't want to ask them what you do because chances I already know what they do.
Yes,
so I like playing with different questions.
We've seen where they are on social media anyway.
So then another one might be, what are you learning for the first time this year?
Very interesting question.
Which plays into the eternal student mindset. Because
it's thought provoking. Isn't
it is.
Even I'm thinking like, well, what?
Yeah.
So many things, but what do I prioritize in my brain? What's my brain gone? This is 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, because the fact is, it reminds me of Alain de Botton quote. He said that if you aren't embarrassed by who you were last year, you're not learning enough or moving quick enough. Because if you have that eternal student mindset, you're always learning, you're always trying stuff, you're always experimenting. You're going into new partnerships, starting new businesses. So chances are they're doing something new for the first time this year. And that for me is interesting because it tells me their priorities and what they see as important.
And I think more people should be learning things new because once you do leave school, you tend to get into a 9 to 5 basis. You just do the same thing. And it is, there's
it's
a stat.
enjoyable.
18 minutes
if
a
I'm
day.
not learning something new, I'm like, come on.
Well, yeah.
The unknown is magical.
18 minutes a day equals 100 hours a year of learning something. So just try something. 18 minutes a day. Don't overdo it. Don't overkill it. 18 minutes a day and you'll do 100 hours more than somebody else.
And the fact is, we all have more than 18 minutes.
Yeah.
People always say, I don't have time, I don't have time.
There's always time.
There's always time. And the fact is, what you're really saying when you say I don't have time is you're saying it is not a priority for me right now. That is what you're actually saying. Yeah. Because I know lots of people say I don't have time. Someone recommends them a new Netflix show. Bam, they've got time.
I've watched 3 episodes of that.
Then suddenly they've got time. So really it's a question of, is this important enough to you for you to find time for it? If it isn't, you won't.
I love that.
That's funny on the TV side, isn't it?
But it is because people will actually. There's a thing which I was listening to you. One of your routines was bedtime routine.
Yeah,
you had the 3 hours, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah,
you had 3 hours to stop working before, 2 hours to stop eating, and 1 hour to ease into your sleep. Taking the electronic device.
Get rid of all your devices. So 3 hours before sleep, you're done with work. I mean, you can still check your phone, what have you, until an hour before. Yeah. But an hour before is when you've got the devices out, meditation, warm bath, whatever your routine, whatever works for you. But really it's about doing things that ease you into a relaxation phase. And then you enter a deeper sleep. The reason why we don't experience deep sleep is because we don't have transitions. So what happens is you work until, let's say, 11 in the evening and you go, oh, I've got to go to bed now. And you go straight to bed. Yeah. But without the transition, your brain is still busy. Yeah. It hasn't had time to wind down. Yeah. So it takes you longer to go to sleep because you're still having lots of thoughts in your head. And also the chance of you having a deep sleep is a lot lower.
I will say this entire week I have worked till the moment I have gone to sleep. And I have a week, and on this it tells you your recovery and sleep. My sleep has been awful this week. It's in yellow to red stages.
So try transition phases. Yeah. So even in your day, if you have transition phases, so I've got a daughter coming up to 4 years old. So when I finish the day and before I pick her up, I have a short transition. Yeah. So it means when I do pick her up, I can be present. Because what I realize, especially with children, is they don't want your time as much as they want your presence and your energy. So if you can be really there with them, they value that.
Yeah, even if it's a short space of time, but like the value of the time. is everything.
And it's just purely them focusing on her, focusing about everything she's loved that moment.
Absolutely.
That day.
And they feel it.
Yeah.
Children can feel your energy. They're empaths. They can feel, is my dad or my mum connected to me right now?
Yeah.
Or is there tension elsewhere?
So that's actually really good for everyone out there that is super hard working. Please try that with your kids. You get that one moment where you can really just have that moment with them.
Yeah, because otherwise, and I see it so often in society, and even when I look around at school and people picking up the children, is we put so much of our energy into our work that when it comes to our home life, the people that we spend the most time with or we love the most, they only get what's left of us, not the best of us.
Yeah. And people think that, we're putting all this time into work so our kids can have a better life and this and that. And I completely understand that. But the kids don't understand that.
They understand love and presence.
Yeah. And I think that then leads to different issues.
And that is also, even when you look at us as adults, we forget that one of the greatest gifts we can give another human is that feeling of being heard, appreciated and supported.
Yeah.
100%. Like every single day I ring our granddad, obviously he's up and stuck on Trent, and just to speak to him, even if it's for like a handful of minutes, like walking to the gym or back, whatever it may be, but them minutes are so valuable because of what it's saying, what the opportunity. He may say the same sort of thing each day. It may be like the story slightly changes from what's happening in the news, but it doesn't matter what we talk about. It could talk about literally nothing.
Yeah.
But he knows, thought about him, phoned him, and it comes back down to that point. There is time. There always is.
There always is. It's how you use it. And this is why living with intention is how you begin changing your life. We all want to design a better life, but the fact is designing a better life begins with designing your days. Yeah. How can you start today with designing a day that works for you so that you can come back, whether you're out working in an office, whether you're running your business, you can come back home, get into your bed and reflect on, wow, how productive was today? Yeah. I am proud of what I did today. I gave my best today.
I was about to say we should go through what we did yesterday, but my day was just... my day didn't go to plan. Well, it did go to plan, but it was just too much.
I can't even remember what we've done. This week has been unbelievably busy. An amazing week. So productive. But actually, you know what I am going to do? Because just saying this now, I can't really remember 100% what I've done this week. I'm going to write it down from the end of today. I'm going to just go back and see what I've done this week. Because I know I've done about 4 different podcasts, about 10 different meetings, about 4 different run clubs.
Don't worry, it's time scaled into my diary.
I was going to say, you've got the record.
Everything's done perfectly.
Yeah. And actually, I think that'll make me feel real good about the week, actually. Just write down what I have done. Yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about one thing. We spoke about this off camera, and the question that I love that you gave is kind of like, what are you excited about or what's something new? But the point for you, what is it that you're excited about this year? Because you spoke about one thing that made me so happy, seeing how happy you were talking about it, about how you did the marketing, the PR for your book. The way, I'm going to let you explain it, because creating the drink, it made me think. So we think about things now, like there's the opportunity to do anything. Yeah. Our brain is the only thing constraining us. So if you've got a thought process, putting it into action, and like you sell a book, I'm going to do a book signing, and I'm going to sit down at wherever people sit down and book
you
signings
created a memory and an emotion and a feeling with your book when you gave it to them people at the con.
Absolutely. So for me, if you want to build a successful business, you need 2 skills. Fundamentally, you only need 2 skills. The first skill is, can you build something of value?
Yes.
That's the first skill. The second skill is, can you communicate that value effectively? Now, if you can do both, you've got a successful business. You've got something people want because you've got something valuable, and you are good at communicating it to the masses, and people will flock to buy it. So for me, whenever I build a product or a service, I love the marketing side of it because it brings my creativity out, and I love doing things differently. So when I talk about building an environment around you that makes it impossible not to succeed, the second layer down is to make sure that in that environment, you have diversity of thought.
Yeah.
Because let's say my environment was just comprised of fellow authors, speakers, and coaches. I mean, I'm just going to think like all of them.
Yeah.
I've got a
ceiling.
do
the norm.
I'm going to do the norm, and there's going to be a limit to my possibility ceiling. But if I spend time with actors, musicians, bartenders, tech entrepreneurs, chefs, and so on, people from very diversified backgrounds, but who share similar values to me and are on exciting trajectory, then what happens is ideas just start to bubble to the surface.
You can get inspired to do
You get
more.
inspired,
Yeah.
but this is where you think differently. So, loads of businesses want to think innovatively, creatively, original. Now, originality doesn't happen unless you look outside of your industry. And then you bring these ideas into your own, mix it up, and you create something that has never been seen before.
Yeah.
So when we first connected, I shared the fact that in the build up to the book launch, we did some really original stuff to get the attention out to the masses. So one of those was creating a cocktail at the Connaught Hotel in London inspired by my book. And we put this cocktail together, we filmed it, we put it out on social media. So the bartender,
Very well shot.
It's an insanely shot video, and the bartender put it out on his social media. I put it out on mine. So I suddenly had people from hospitality following my work, restaurateurs, hoteliers, bartenders, and my audience suddenly wanted to go to the Connaught to order this cocktail, to try this cocktail. And so that was a great partnership that raised awareness. Again, the focus was the cocktail, but indirectly it spoke about the book.
Yeah.
But it was a different way to get attention, because it wasn't just, as you said just now, it wasn't me just every post on my feed going, buy my book, buy my book, buy my book.
Plus
it was
quality.
novelty.
Quality.
Yeah.
Like when sometimes I feel like a lot of products these days, because they do the norm, you just think it's the norm. But when you present something, it's like if this mug here on the table is just in a kitchen, it just looks like a mug. But if the mug is placed in a white room, beautifully shot, whoa, it looks like, what's this mug?
Yeah.
What is it? It's what's new about it? Whereas the way you did it with the book and the cocktail, the quality, the location, the hotel itself, people want to talk about it. They want to PR it. They want to share that video, because I'm like, I'm proud to be part of that video. That
it's the association,
journey.
isn't it? And this is, we live in a world where attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. And so what we're really playing to when we think about communication is the attention economy. How are we getting the attention and eyeballs of people to say, hey, look at this? Once you've hooked them in, then you can share the value, you can share what they're going to get and the experience. But the first step is getting that attention.
Yeah.
And this is why in marketing, I learned the term from, there's a guy called Mark Jacques Burton. He started a nightclub in Sloane Square called Tonteria. He's moved into fashion now. But he came up with this idea called UTP, which stands for unique talking points. Now, the more unique talking points you can embed into a business, the easier it becomes for whether it's prospects or customers or audiences to share it, because they can't help but talk about it.
So jot that down, guys.
So if we take his nightclub for an example, when he launched, they decided to put train tracks on the ceiling of this nightclub. It wasn't a huge space they had. It was underground of a hotel. So they had to give people a reason to come. And the nightclub industry is very competitive. You could choose wherever you want to go. So they had these train tracks on the ceiling of this club. So if you had a VIP table and you ordered some shots or drinks from the bar, they would put them on this toy train. They would light it on fire, and it would be going around the tracks towards your table. And the people that would present it to you were dressed in Day of the Dead characters, because it was a Mexican themed place. Now, can you imagine what everyone was doing in that bar at the time this happened? Photos, videos, selfies. So what it taught me,
just ordering it to see them come through.
Just to see the experience, is that when you embed your business with UTPs, you don't actually need a marketing team, because what happens is your audience become your marketing team. They're the ones that then tell the world and evangelize to the world about your product or service. I mean, if you look at Apple, it's the same thing. They don't spend as much on ads as other of their competitors do, because people just talk about them. People are evangelizing about having an Apple product. They don't have to spend a huge amount on marketing.
The story is there, and the intrigue, the kind of like, I want to know more about, whether it be Vision Pro or something, like the bounce back, and then that ripple effect grows beyond any marketing team could ever have imagined. And you've got the largest free unpaid workforce doing it for you, and you're like,
they do very
we
sleek
tick the box
stuff.
now.
Very sleek gadgets, though,
and this is the power of community, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I think when we build businesses, we don't spend enough time thinking about community. What is the community you're building?
I think that's one thing that's really good in this year moving forward. Within a small community, whether it be like my local gym or the local coffee shop, people really within that area really are valuing community. And I think within London, that's kind of approaching the way they actually, okay, this community is really good at my gym or coffee shop. And they're like, most of these people work for big, very corporate companies. And they're like, well, how can we implement this camaraderie, this hi, can I hold the door for you? Oh, we're going to the gym social this evening, but how are they going to implement that into the larger companies? And I think that's exciting because I think people are putting value on that because they know that the attention span is so short and it's not helping anybody. That these longer stories, this proposition, like for us with like FINT that we're launching, I want to give as much value. I want to over deliver value, and they expect one thing but get so much more. That's the goal for us. Launching the app, but also the education that goes along with it. More value. Because at the end of the day, giving people value is giving me value as well. Like it's to educate people and to help people is the best feeling in the world.
Absolutely. And this is what contributes to our legacy. When we think about legacy, it's what we've given to the world. One of the things I tell people when it comes to me thinking long-term about my own journey is that our worth as a human is determined by how much more we have given to the world than we have taken from it.
Yes, yeah.
And when you give to the world, that's what brings you meaning. It's why people are going to volunteering projects feel good.
Yeah.
Because they feel like they're giving something back to the world.
George, really, I'm going to talk about this. I wasn't going to talk about this. There's nothing about giving. It segues perfectly. So usually news stories are all down. It's like, negative, clickbait. So the story that's just come out in America, I can't remember the exact university. The lady's donated $1 billion of her Berkshire Hathaway stock to the university. The university is like, okay, how do we use this?
Sure.
Fundamentally, for the end of time now, all the people going to university, their tuition is covered.
Yeah.
And that news story has gone viral, but for a positive reason, a happiness, a transfer of energy.
She is now an official legend.
Exactly.
It's never a positive, is it? It's always a negative. And seeing that positivity, growth, and giving back, I feel like there is a change in the world this year. I feel like the positive things that we do, even with big corporate companies, it's starting to be like, not just we're greenwashing something. There is actually people behind it of doing something good.
I just believe the press should show a lot more positive stuff.
They should.
I think they should.
If they show more positive stuff, people would be more positive. There would be a better outcome in the long run. Everyone would start being better.
Okay, I'm intrigued. This question. You say you're like your passion, I can see, is marketing and the side. You are who you are, and the book and everything. What businesses would you want to do? What's that vision that you see in the future?
So for me at the moment, most of what I do is public speaking. So I speak at companies or conferences. I coach individuals one-on-one. I mentor people and I consult startups all the way to SMEs, sometimes bigger, about strategy, about business thinking. For me in the future, there's lots of things I've got in my head that I would love to explore. Yeah. But one thing I've worked off is be attached to none of the outcomes and just enjoy the journey. Yes. Because if we're so attached to the outcome, what does that mean we are in the moment? Are we depressed, frustrated, anxious about the future? So for me, to give an example, I would love to, in time, do something on television about my work. I got inspired to think about this when I was in Los Angeles in September last year. And I did a fireside chat at a Hollywood members club. And a producer just said, have you thought about doing something on television? And up until that point, I'd never thought about it. But it just got me thinking. So that could be one project.
I think you'd be great doing that.
Thank you.
I think a lot of people would benefit from it as well.
Yeah, doing more stuff internationally because I did 3 cities in America last year, and it's such a different experience to the UK.
The mentality, the thought process.
There's a different mentality.
Think.
But
I think because they're
so different.
Yeah, they grew up with this. I mean, personal development, self-help, leadership, all of this literature and teachings began in the US. I mean, think about all the classic books we've read in these fields, mostly American. It's where this industry started. And so society over there is open to this stuff and they're naturally more entrepreneurial because they've grown up with all of this around them, whether it's the parents listen to audio tapes in the car on the commute to work, books in the parents' study about money and wealth and all of this stuff. Whereas in the rest of the world, we've taken a bit longer to catch on to embracing some of these insights. So so those are 2 of the things. And then the third thing I'm interested to explore is stuff within the AI and the metaverse and all these technological advancements to see how that can change what I do at the moment.
Yeah.
Definitely on the side of seeing the growth. To be honest, all 3 of what you said, like all goes hand in hand. The way that you speak about, the way you'd market them businesses, each one affects all of them. And do you find the best thing is moving forward that you'd kind of, it's something that I know I want to do more of, is the way that you network. Fundamentally, your network, your people, you're always expanding, you're always meeting new people. How do you find that? How do you find that's the best way? Because I can find sometimes in certain countries or London can be quite locked off. If you don't have a connection to somebody, it can be quite hard to make them first initial kind of chipping away at it.
Relationships, I think, are vital to succeed in business or any endeavor that you want to be prolific in. Because there's two elements to this journey. It's what you know, which is your knowledge, your specific skill set, and there's who you know. Now, a lot of people will argue, is it better what you know or who you know? I think it's both.
Yeah, you need both.
Because if you know lots of great people, but you're not really good at your skill set or your product, people find out eventually. If you're really good at what you do, but no one knows about you,
well, no one's found out.
You're going to become the world's best kept secret. And so for me, relationship building has been something I've embraced from the get-go of building my business. And so I've been a big proponent of voice notes. I mean, one of the things I love doing on a platform like LinkedIn, for example, is every time somebody sends me a connection request or I send them a connection request, I drop them a voice note within, I don't know, the first 2 or 3 days. Just say, hey, good to meet you. Look forward to learning more about your work. Yeah. And then I archive that message.
That could be your app.
Why a voice note? Why a voice note?
Voice note for 2 reasons. First, we are curious creatures. So when you open your phone and you get a notification from an app, it will give you the first line. So you have a preview of the message.
Yeah.
But if it's a voice note, you've got to listen to it.
Yeah.
So we more often than not will want to hear what's in that voice note.
Yeah.
And second, voice carries emotion.
Yeah.
So voice tells people what you're about. And especially if I'm a speaker, people get to feel the way I present myself through my voice.
Yeah.
And so it gets
people. You've got a very distinctive voice, so it works very well.
But no, I was asking because I thought emotion.
The emotion part is great, and it
arouses
someone's curiosity. So then what happens is they might look for my profile, look at my content, look at my videos.
A bit more of a deep dive.
They're more interested to go beyond the initial message. And that's led to so many opportunities, whether it's like, hey, do you want to come speak at my conference? My voice is no longer about 6 to 8 seconds.
Oh,
short and sweet.
Good.
And it's
not
funny,
one of them 3 minutes ones where you've got to put it on 2 times speed.
And it's funny because some people like turn into a game. It was really fun. I sent one to a radio presenter who ended up referring me to someone to BBC Radio London. That's how I got the BBC Radio London interview. And he sent not only a voice note back, he sent a video message back. And I was like, man, you've done my voice note down and gone up again. You know?
I love that though. That is so true. You, from hearing everything you do and how you connect with people, it is pure, which is the book, is energy.
Yeah.
Positive, good feeling of an energy.
Yeah, and be
I've
bold.
found so much value in this hour. My brain
It's
is
been awesome.
It's
been awesome, man.
Yeah.
And more to the point, like even I know, and after this, like we'll definitely catch up more and more. But the marketing side of the way that you spoke about the book, and it just. Really,
you market off emotion and energy.
Yeah, I mean, because that's what sells. I mean, whether we like it or not, we make a purchasing decision based on emotion.
Yeah,
take phones or gadgets. You don't need the latest gadget or phone. The previous version did the same thing.
Yeah,
but the reason we want it is because we can show we got the latest version.
Yeah,
we can do all these features.
It was always on Strictly. I tried to make sure that when we created the dance is one thing, but the story within that 90 seconds from the start, the middle, and the end.
Yeah.
How can I create the emotions to heighten the person's heart rate, connect with them, sat down on their sofa at home? Because I know when I heighten their heart rate, the more evident they're going to make a rash decision and pick up the phone and vote for me. Like it's a full thought process. And that was what I always prioritized.
Yeah.
The story sometimes over more so the dancing, because I know the story can hide a lot of sins.
Yeah.
Because you see what you want to see.
Yeah.
And that's what a story
emotion takes over the brain. I mean, an example I share is that let's say that there's a building that happens to be on fire. You logically are not going to run into that building and try and save someone. You're going to call the firemen and women to come and address the scene. However, if a loved one of yours is in that building and it's on fire, you're in there. You're not thinking. You're just straight in there. That's emotion. Emotion has taken over, and emotion drives so much of our thinking. Yeah. So when I talk about relationship building as well, one of my challenges to listeners of this podcast is think of ways that you can act different and bolder than most people to build relationships faster.
Yeah.
So one of the hacks that I use, and I still do today, is when I go to an event, and I'm going because I want to hear someone talk or I'm curious about the topic, I always try and get there around 30 to 45 minutes earlier so I can sit at the front.
Yeah.
And the reason you sit at the front is that on average, you're going to meet far more interesting people on the front row than you will towards the back.
Yeah.
So often you might even meet the speakers because they're there early having to prepare.
As well.
You meet the speakers team, you meet the event organizers, you meet some really interesting people, you meet the VIPs who have been invited by the speaker, and then suddenly you've bypassed all those steps you would have had to get towards to get to those relationships. And there's a great book, if you haven't read this book yet, it's a recommendation to add to your list. It's a book called The Third Door by Alex Banayan. Okay. It's a fascinating read. Warning, you might end up hooked and finish it in 2 or 3 nights. But the essence of The Third Door, and this is how I see my journey as well, is that when you go to a nightclub, there are 2 doors. So the first door is where 99% of the people go through. That's the main entrance. Mm-hmm. So you have to queue up for, I don't know, an hour or so. The bouncer checks whether you're good to go in. You buy your ticket and then you're through the door into the club. The second door is the red carpet entrance. You have the VIPs, the influencers and celebrities. But there's always a third door if you are clever. So the third door could be, the janitor. And the janitor has keys to the cleaning room entrance. Yeah. Or the manager. And the manager can get you bypass both queues. So it's about thinking about your journey and who are the relationships you need to create to get from where you are to where you want to be. And what is that third door for you? Yeah. How can you create multiple third doors to get you there? Whether it's sitting at the front of an event by going really early, whether it's about putting out lots of asks on a platform where that person you want to build a relationship with doesn't have as much engagement. So really thinking creatively, how can you access your own third door?
And you've basically just said there is always a way. You can find a way.
When people say with that girl,
there's no way I can do that. No way. No,
somebody
you just haven't thought of the way
yet. Fundamentally, it was like, well, you've got an opportunity, or maybe you've got money, or maybe I'm like, you can leverage time. I gave so many points to be like, no, it's up to you if you want to put that barrier there. There are opportunities, people will, and it's
And this is why I like that. That's why I like there's a hack. There's even a book I think it was by Dan Sullivan, and it's called Ask Who, Not How.
Yeah.
And a lot of us, when we think about working towards a goal or vision, the first question we ask ourselves is, how am I going to get there? How am I going to make this work? But imagine instead of asking how, you say who. Who do I need to speak with in order to make this journey easier?
Yeah.
Who do I need to speak with to get me a referral to this? And what happens is you end up making faster progress.
Yeah.
You end up making faster progress because you're building a relationship action plan. You're understanding who are the key people to help you get from here to here fastest.
Okay, we're gonna
mind blown.
We're gonna have to end it here. But honestly, I've enjoyed this. I know I was going to enjoy this conversation. I knew me and Kurt spoke to honest last night, and I sent him some voice notes. I did actually.
Yeah,
I did. And my approach to this conversation today was kind of like, it's a conversation, and to talk from our personal experiences and also yours, and just be open to which way it goes. I didn't want a structure for today. I wanted
just
to
kind
be
of free
open
flow.
because speaking to you when it was a car fest, speaking to you now, like, it's easy to talk because there's a flow and a conversation that stems from everything. There's not a full stop at anywhere because it's up to you if you put the full stop there.
I just knew from meeting you the first time and reading about you and stuff, it's an endless open mind of knowledge because you don't enclose yourself in a box.
No.
Like you said, there's a third door. There's this and that. You are always thinking outside it and differently, and how people feel through emotion. And I think it's a great way of thinking. More people should think like this in life.
So important. We're all personal brands.
Yeah.
One of the things I love, I've used Apple as well. I love The Rock as well. The reason I love these two as examples is because you cannot categorize them. If you go back into the 90s and early 2000s, you look at the stock market, they would have classified Apple as a computer company, and The Rock would have been classified as a wrestler. Now, fast forward to today, would you classify Apple as a computer company? They do watches, televisions. They're going to be doing everything. They've got phones, maybe cars. The Rock is acting.
They
cancelled it.
Okay. Last week, stock price went up. They were literally killing the car.
So The Rock does wrestling. He does directing, producing. He's involved in business. He started a new football league in America. How would you classify it? So what they've done is they've transcended a title or a category, and they've become a brand.
Yeah.
And I think all of us have the potential to become a personal brand. how we use the tools available to us, how we engage with the world, what we learn, the subjects we get into our head allows us to connect these dots and come up with original ways of thinking. And that's how we transcend being categorized as one thing only.
So you say key things, just quickly then. Key things to help self-help yourself is don't look at the negatives in a situation. Try and look towards the positives, because then it turns situations into a better light, and then you can think about them nicer. And think about your diet, think about your sleep, and think about the things that you love to do and do them things.
Yep. And listen to your curiosity.
Yeah.
Something I said earlier is you don't wake up one morning and you go, Eureka, I know what my purpose is. It never happens.
No.
The reality of what happens is you have this sort of gut feeling of curiosity. Oh, I'm curious about this. But the thing is, we ignore it, we suppress it. But start listening to that and follow that curiosity.
Yeah.
And then that will unravel more steps. Sweet. That will either tell you, don't do this, or it will tell you, actually, do this, but actually try in a different way. So follow your curiosities, because when you follow that, it will lead you to the river of where you were meant to be.
Yeah, open them conversations and just see where they go.
It kind of is beautifully summed up by this Zen saying that I first learned when I spent some time in Kyoto, which goes, be attached to no outcome and open to everything. Because when everything is unknown, anything is possible.
I love that.
Oh, but that's a perfect end.
That literally is.
Honestly, please give a shout out to where people can find you, and obviously the book itself. I currently enjoy listening to it on.
Actually, I've got to
Spotify,
read. I've got to read one thing on the book.
Oh, Kurt's got to read one thing. He's getting this.
Oh, where's my images gone? I took a screenshot of it. It's actually a comment of someone reading the book. It just made me laugh. I've got loads of them. I read them all, but this is not a one-time this is not a one-time read kind of book. This is a book to be absorbed, notes taken, reflected, and returned to again and again. Simon has picked so many takeaways into these pages. We should be ordering it on Deliveroo. I love that.
Yeah, that was from Andrea McLean, actually. Former presenter of Loose Women, actually. And I love that. When she gave me that endorsement, I was like, wow, that's a very good visual.
Yeah. Just made me giggle. I read through loads of them, and all these were amazing ones. Were way better comments. But that just made me laugh. I loved it.
But yeah, so I'm on all the major social platforms. The three I use the most are YouTube, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Instagram, my handle is at Simon Alexander O. And if you want to purchase the book Energize, it's Energize with a Z. You can get it on all the major bookstores, or go to getenergizedbook.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I feel
that's
good.
awesome. The genuine.
Enjoy.
Simon, thanks for coming on. Thanks for chatting.
Thank you so much for having me.
Sharing your knowledge.
I can't wait to just go for dinner and just talk business. Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll have to record that one as well.
Yeah.
That was great.
But no, thank you very much. Loved it. Absolutely loved it. Please leave comments, anything, because it helps other people find us. And have a great day.
Yeah. Enjoy your day, guys.
I'm going to have a great day.
Positivity, energy. Keep smiling.
Just before we go anywhere, thank you very much for listening to Freedom Impact Trust. We love your feedback, so please do leave a review, because it helps others find us, doesn't it, Curtis?
Yes, it does. Comment, subscribe, like, share it to a friend. Let everybody in the world know that this is the podcast that you're enjoying, and let us know what you loved about it. We enjoy talking to you guys. We enjoy having fun, and we can't wait to see you and hear you on the next episode.
Plus, we want to thank our sponsor, FINT, the financial investment app, making investing easy from as little as £50 a month. You guys are awesome. We love you. We're part of you.
Don't forget, it's all through 3 portfolios, AJ. Nice and simple.
I know. Have a great day.
See you later, guys.